Welcome to our inaugural episode of the Living Life Our Way podcast. I'm Troy,
I'm Jeff.
and we're excited to be with you here. One of the articles or blogs that has received the most visits on our site relates to the idea of dating oneself.
The whole premise is we spend a lot of our time trying to get work done, care for families, those kinds of things, and we don't take enough time to kind of get that self-healing, that self-wellness that we hear talked about so frequently. So a lot of people, when you get married, when Ellie and I got married, we were given the advice a lot, go on a weekly date. And this would kind of relate to that. Take yourself on a weekly date. Really make sure that you're having that time to yourself.
And as we've talked about, it's no surprise that the blog has resonated with so many people because a lot of people do feel a little bit overwhelmed by the day-to-day and a lot of their responsibilities and don't allow themselves to recharge their batteries like they need to. And that's what prompted us to take a few minutes and talk about some of our thoughts about dating oneself, because people oftentimes, when they do have some downtime, they involve themselves in activities that really don't recharge the battery, whether it's binging Netflix or playing a video game or something that allows us to detach from a lot of the responsibilities that we normally have and allows us a little free time, but really isn't productive in terms of doing for us what we need in order to get our batteries charged back up and have the energy to attack some of our responsibilities. So we wanted to talk a little bit about some ways to date yourself in a way that is productive, that is positive, and that does do for us what we actually need.
So there's ideas like going on a shopping spree, giving yourself a spa day, dinner for one, taking yourself out to dinner. And those are all things that we kind of felt were pretty generic ideas. There's nothing inherently wrong with them, but the idea of spending a lot of money to decrease stress probably doesn't resonate with a lot of people. A lot of people, money can be a stressor, and so saying I'm going to spend $100 on myself when you have a family or a wife that you're wanting to do other things with, it may not be the most helpful practice.
For sure. And part of our goal in developing the Living Life Our Way website and some of these other materials is to encourage intentionality so that we're living in a way that aligns with what we want out of life. And if that intentionality includes being more thoughtful in how we spend our resources, spend our money, it's a little antithetical to the idea of recharging one's battery to hijack some of the efforts being made on controlling one's finances and being better about budgeting and being more intentional in how we spend our money if we just go out and spend $500 on a shopping spree. Sure, it might feel fun at the time. It might feel cathartic to do that, but when we then return and are evaluating the impact that had on our life more broadly, not only does it end up often not being productive or not helping us feel recharged, but can have the opposite impact. It can be really detrimental, cause a lot of guilt, a lot of regret. And so that whole date that we went on for ourselves, not only did it not help us feel recharged for our other responsibilities, but oftentimes will actually compromise our ability to deal with those things without unnecessary stress. So that's the goal of this discussion, is to talk a little bit about maybe some whys of the dating ourselves and then some hows or some ideas for dating ourselves that might be more productive and might fit better in the intentionality paradigm that we're working to live.
Yeah, those first few ideas are certainly a dopamine chaser. where you are going after that hit of dopamine that comes from spending some money, getting something new. It's kind of, I know I always feel happy when I get something from Amazon on the porch, but then I think about it and I don't really need more things, nor do I really want to store more things. So certainly the shopping spree or the expensive dinner for one, those kinds of things are maybe just chasing that dopamine hit. They're not as long lasting. Our next couple ideas, though, are a little bit longer lasting, and they involve trying to better yourself by taking a class or picking up a new hobby.
Sure. And a couple of ideas that we came up with. Fitness, it's well known that doing something active and engaging your body has really positive benefits outside of just the idea of getting more fit. There's a lot of physiological and psychological impacts that activity have that is really beneficial. So one of the first ideas that we had is a fitness class or a dance class, and oftentimes if you look around your community, there will be some resources that are very low cost or often even free that would allow you to interact with some other people and engage your body and be active in a way that you might not normally be. So that would be one thing to consider, is taking some class that allows you to not as part of your normal fitness routine, but allows you to kind of step out a little bit and engage some different body parts or some different muscles and some different parts of your brain and have fun that way. So that would be one idea that we came up with is some sort of physical class or activity that's a little bit outside the norm for you.
Yeah, another idea would be to do something that's maybe a new physical hobby or even a non-physical hobby, but something like throwing pottery, or Ellie and I recently took a glass blowing class that was really cathartic. It was something that you just kind of could go enjoy and improve a skill. It's not something necessarily that needs to be a long-term hobby, but it was something that was exciting for me and Ellie to try, and I know Ellie would love to go back and do another round of glass blowing. So some sort of hobby like that, especially if you're able to engage your brain or your hands, it really can be pretty cathartic and really take your mind off of the things that are stressing you out in a productive way.
And for sure, and just not that we're brain scientists or claim any expertise there, but the research is pretty clear that those kind of creative activities are engaging parts of our brain that provide us longer term benefits, some new connections, and help us walk away from that activity feeling more energized and feeling more engaged. So those kind of creativity based activities are a great way to date yourself. Another one, and this is going to be maybe saying something about us as we talk about what we really enjoy, but the idea of planning a trip that you can take on your own. Now, certainly, depending on your circumstances, that can be something exotic. It might be a location that you've never been to, or something that's a little bit longer and would involve more planning and a greater time investment. But it can also
it may not even be a trip you ever want to go on.
And it's a good point. So sort of bifurcated a little bit, two different components to that. But as you look at this, it can also be something accessible and overnight, going camping by yourself or something that does not need to involve a lot of expense, but does allow you to go through the process of identifying what really resonates with you and what you feel speaks to you in terms of activities, the locations, what you'd like to see. It may be just going to a town or city that's somewhat close by to you that you haven't spent much time in, but would like to learn a little bit more about. So the travel component of it is a ton of fun. We love travel, and so that's always something that resonates with us. But as Jeff mentioned, just planning it is an opportunity for you to engage yourself in some self-reflection and some self-exploration in terms of what speaks to you and And there's also the benefit of maybe learning some new things, not only about the places that you're going, but some resources that are available for planning. And so that's one that we really love. And it may be the type of thing that you go to the library or move away from your normal spot, go to Starbucks or somewhere that you can spend a little time alone, but focused on a trip, again, like Jeff said, that you may or may not take, but planning a trip that speaks to you.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of studies have shown that we get more pleasure from the planning of the trip, the excitement of anticipation of looking towards that trip than we actually do from the trip itself. And so having a repository, one, it decreases the stress when you actually do decide to take that trip, because you already have a plan laid out, but it also gives you something to look forward to in the future. So picking, I know New Zealand is a very popular bucket list destination. Ellie and I just had the opportunity to visit, and there is so much to do. It would have been awesome if we'd already had our New Zealand trip planned from the word go. So
it's a great observation, Jeff, that when Amy and I travel, I normally do some planning, and it's oftentimes at the last minute, and so it would reduce the stress for both of us if I dated myself a little bit by not dated by making me feel older, but went on a date with myself by planning some of those things in advance. So it's a great observation. It's always fun to look forward to something that you might be able to do.
And speaking of things that are accessible, doing another version of the staycation and just getting outside. We live in Utah, so we have the mountains. It's pretty much free entertainment. We can go on a hike or go up to a lake and walk around, or there's several parks where you can go ride a bike, or those kinds of things. Those physical activities, again, getting those endorphins going really decreases the cortisol, the stress hormones in your brain, and helps you to really find more satisfaction and more peace in your life. So exercise, anything physical, it doesn't need to necessarily just be running on the treadmill or taking an exercise class or going to the gym, but just getting outside, moving around, enjoying some of the beautiful things that we have around us every day that we kind of take for granted. Definitely cathartic.
For sure. And when we think of outdoorsy, we oftentimes do think, and rightly so, about getting away here in Utah to the mountains or enjoying some of that real natural beauty. But one thing that for me, I love doing is walking around neighborhoods that I'm not particularly familiar with, and just seeing different architectural styles and different design features, and interfacing a little bit with people in those neighborhoods, but just spending some time outside, being part of different communities than the one I live in, is something that I find really enjoyable. So if you're in a situation where getting away to mountains is something that might be a little bit more difficult, consider some, hopping on a bus or a train and going to another neighborhood that you've heard about or even visited occasionally, but haven't spent much time in. And I think you'll be amazed at how much you enjoy spending time on your own, just observing these other areas and communities. So being outdoors, though, vitamin D, if it's during the day, getting a little sunlight is a great thing. Getting some fresh air. Hopefully you're in an area where the air is at least somewhat fresh. But just being outside is a super positive thing to do when you're spending some time on your own. Of course, always be mindful of safety, but being outside is an incredible thing.
And getting into your community. There's lots of opportunities for volunteering, which is kind of our last one for today, but that's something that we've both found great meaning. I met my wife doing a humanitarian service over in India, and that has obviously been quite a positive experience for me, but it certainly doesn't need to be that big. It can be just going down, volunteering at your local food bank, or picking up garbage, just walking around, picking up garbage.
And the research just continues to pile up of the benefits of non-reciprocal kindness, meaning kindness that you're doing without the expectation of getting something in return. Study after study indicates that kindness, that type of kindness, is really the best treatment for depression and anxiety and some of these challenges that a lot of people face. The idea of thinking about another person. We're naturally social creatures, and there is something in us that is hardwired that when we reach out and connect with somebody else by doing something kind, even if it's not directly, like Jeff said, picking up garbage around a community, you may be doing that on your own, but when you're just contributing to that community and when you're connecting to sort of our shared humanity, it really does change you in profound ways. So that may not be the first thing that people think about when they think of, I want to date myself, is doing volunteer work. But particularly if you find a cause or a service or something that really resonates with you, where you find a meaning beyond just the simple act, but part of the broader effort that organization or that service activity plays into, you'll find it's incredibly enlarging. It's incredibly empowering. It really will make you come back to normal life with your battery charged in a way that's hard to replicate any other way.
Yeah, I just actually watched a TED Talk last night about this woman, and we'll link it in the description, but she was giving her 3-year-old son a birthday present and said, we should, for the next year, every day, give something back to the earth, make the earth happier. And she goes through all of these studies about how depression, anxiety, stress, all of those things are reduced when we give. And that non-reciprocal giving. So giving gifts does it, but just going out and participating in the shared humanity, volunteering, picking up garbage is one that she suggested. She lives by the ocean, so going down to the beach and picking up garbage with her 3-year-old was a way that they could kind of give back, and that 3-year-old can experience that positivity of just giving and volunteering without expecting anything in return. So it was a really interesting TED Talk. Highly recommend watching it. Again, we'll link that in the description below, and that'll be available. But it is a great way to date yourself, even though it probably isn't top of mind. It's definitely one of the most productive ways to go out and treat yourself.
Very good. Well, so 3 key takeaways that we maybe recommend from this and from the idea of dating yourself is, 1, it really is important to find some time, to carve out some time to be able to focus on yourself, not in a selfish way, but focus in a regenerative way, in a way that helps build you up. The idea that we often hear is when you're on an airplane, they always tell you if the oxygen masks drop, you need to put on yours first. And there's a lot of truth to the fact that we can only help other people to the extent that we are healthy and in a position to do so. So we do need to get some of that oxygen ourselves before we can help others. So dating yourself is really key. The second takeaway would be, make sure that you're doing something that does not detract from the intentionality that you're trying to build into your life. Don't do something that impedes your progress in other areas of your life, and make sure that it's something that builds your reservoir of energy, that recharges your battery, that doesn't just cause it to flatten out even more. And then third is to really consider those activities that have maybe a 1 + 1 = 3, a synergistic impact on how we feel about ourselves. And getting out in nature, serving other people, or doing some sort of volunteer work are great ways to do it. So It's been great for me to think through some of these things. It's a great topic. It's something that's important. Something that a lot of people are thinking about, and there's ways that we can do it that really allow us to get out of it what we need to and want to get out of it.
Yeah, so we look forward to hearing from you guys. Any date yourself ideas. We also are looking forward to trying out some more of these on a regular basis in our own lives. But it has been, like we said, one of our most popular topics, and we're just grateful for the opportunity to have a chance to reflect on it and to bring this to you. So we'll see kind of where this podcast goes and where these videos go. But for now, we look forward to seeing you in the next one.